Oh hi, thanks for watching my video. So, I've been making videos on The Sims 4 for quite a while now. There are things I love about the game, and there are things I hate about the game. It's currently the longest running game in the franchise, and over the years has received plenty of criticism from many Simmers. While some negative feedback is to be expected from any product, The Sims 4 has become known within the community as the most disappointing out of all of the previous games. Now, obviously not everyone in the community thinks that, but an overwhelming amount do, and that's what I want to talk about today. How did The Sims 4 become the biggest disappointment in the franchise? Before I begin, I just want to mention that outside of the facts, most of what I say is my opinion. I am a huge Sims fan, I like The Sims 4 and will continue to play it. But there are things I've noticed that I myself am disappointed with. This video is more about constructive feedback and is not a video just to shit on The Sims 4. So, in order to understand why so many fans feel disappointed by EA and what they've done to The Sims, we will need to look at multiple factors. I'll be talking about The Sims 4 base game at launch, the add-on packs, and the gameplay issues. Okay, alright. So, with regard to base game, why was The Sims 4 a turning point for Simmers? How was it different? Well, it was a turning point because it was the first game to offer significantly less than previous games. With each game there was an improvement, but the launch of The Sims 4 had so much missing. I believe it was originally due to be an online game, and EA got pretty far in development. However, after the flop that was SimCity Online, they decided to pull the idea and stick to a single-player game. The work gone into the online game, however, had significantly cut into development time, because it very much seemed like The Sims 4 was rushed when it was thrown out onto the shelves. Take a look at The Sims 1. A virtual doll's house offering a playable neighbourhood with the ability to build and customise Sims and their homes, allowing you to take care of their needs and get them jobs. The Sims 2 had all of those things, plus more life stages, a 3D camera, better customisation, wants and fears. It introduced pregnancy, a memory system, a full storyline. The game had a full facelift for The Sims 2. Then The Sims 3 came out. In addition to much of what we already had from The Sims 2, we also got even more customization with creator style, personality traits, more life stages added in base game, cars were added, and not to mention the biggest upgrade of all, the whole neighbourhood was an open world, so no loading screen during gameplay. And finally came The Sims 4. We got better customization with build and buy and create a sim, traits were carried over, but this time the game didn't add anything as substantial as what had been added in the last two games. In fact, not only that, but this time we didn't even have the same things carried over like the other games did. The Sims 2 built upon what already existed in The Sims 1, The Sims 3 built upon what existed in The Sims 2, but this time it was a completely different game. The editable world that we had from back in The Sims 1 was now gone, the memory system and storytelling from The Sims 2 was gone and disregarded, the creator style, colour wheel, cars and open world from The Sims 3 was gone, and other than some nicer graphics, there was nothing else to take the place of those missing things. In my opinion, The Sims 4 base game at launch was more similar to The Sims 1 than any of the other games. The base game has had multiple updates over the years, but many Simmers still feel that the game lacks depth. When it was first released, there were many other things missing that were in previous games. Just to name a few, there was no family tree, ghosts, toddlers, pools, nannies, repairmen, basements, firefighters, cars, burglars, grocery shopping and police. That's not even the full list. Now I know that some of these things are pretty small, but when there are so many of them and they were all missing, you can see why people were disappointed. And many of these items are still missing from the base game. We have more resources now than ever to share our thoughts with others. In the current age of influencers, YouTubers and word of mouth, it's only become easier for consumers to share feedback and get a message directly to the game companies. Over the last 20 years, consumer expectations have been rising, which is a good thing. It has put more pressure on multiple industries to step it up and offer products that are worth their value. Think about buying a mobile phone. If you ask someone what basic functionality they would require in a phone to buy it, 20 years ago they would say, I need to be able to make phone calls and send text messages. The answer to that same question today would be completely different. The basic expectations for a phone today is to make calls and text, access to the internet at all times, a good quality camera, ability to make videos, enough storage for multiple gaming apps, essentially a mini computer that you can access anytime, anywhere. I'm not sure if that's the best example, but just to visualize how expectations for products have changed over time. The Sims 1 was released over 20 years ago, and at the time, it was a huge success. But if it was to be sold today as a new game, that wouldn't fly. I mean, you wouldn't still buy an old Nokia, would you? People have come to expect more, especially as over time technology has advanced. It's more feasible for companies to offer better quality content than before. So why, out of all the Sims games, does The Sims 4 have more in common with The Sims 1 than the other superior games? Especially when we know that people have come to expect more since The Sims 1. The Sims 4 base game was initially sold for $40, but is that what it was worth? I think the value of something is determined by a range of factors, the material, the manpower behind it, and of course, the purpose it serves. The purpose of the game, according to EA, is to be a life simulator. I'm going to come back to this. So, given that The Sims 4 was the fourth addition to an already well-established franchise, expectations were high as The Sims already had a good reputation. But if you isolate The Sims 4 from the other games and look at it individually as a life simulation game, it's hard not to wonder how it would have sold on its own merit. What I mean by this is, imagine The Sims didn't exist. Done? Okay, good. So now I'm going to pitch you a brand new game that's purpose is to be a life simulator. And just before I go into telling you about it, I'll let you know that I'm planning on selling it for $40. Okay, so I've got this brilliant idea, guys. It's a life simulation game offering the ability to create and customize your own little people. They can live in homes that you build yourself, although you are limited by the fixed lot sizes that I provide, but you can choose your lot from a still image. Your little people can get jobs, and when they're at work, they'll disappear. You can't go with them. And when they visit other lots, there'll be a loading screen every time. I imagine the response would be, okay, that sounds good. So I'm guessing this is the infrastructure to the game, like the base layer, I suppose. But for the price you're asking, what else is being added to the game? Is there a second layer? After a few questions on my idea, it's then revealed that my life simulator is literally just the basics that I mentioned. I'm planning to sell a life simulator with no weather, no wildlife or pets, no active jobs, no world editing, no apartments, no vacations, no shopping, no story progression, and no transport. With that in mind, I reckon I'd probably get laughed out of Dragon's Den. Not because it's not a good idea, but can you really say that what I'm offering is a life simulator? Maybe you could, about 15-20 years ago, and that's kind of why I say The Sims 4 is more like The Sims 1. Oh yeah, you can remember that The Sims exists now. I just wanted to do that activity to highlight how it would probably go down if you tried releasing The Sims 4 base game as it was at launch without banking on The Sims name to guarantee sales. So, we've spoken about why Simmers are disappointed with The Sims 4 in terms of just the base game, but now we're going to talk about the expansion packs that came after. With a whopping total of 43 pieces of extra content on offer, The Sims 4 now holds the title for the most packs in all Sims games, if of course we don't count the microtransactions in The Sims 3. Some common feedback from the community is that some of the packs in previous games had grouped together the same concept as others that were sold individually in The Sims 4. For example, Seasons in The Sims 3 had the weather system, festivals, and included Halloween. The Sims 4 Seasons had the weather system, no festivals, and if you wanted Halloween, you'd have to purchase the extra pack of spooky stuff. The Sims 3 Ambitions introduced active professions, including interior designer and ghost hunter. Also, the laundry system was introduced. The Sims 4 had active careers in an expansion pack, interior decorating in a game pack, then ghost hunting and laundry in 2 separate stuff packs. And The Sims 4 doesn't have the tattoo artist or styling professions, so keep your eyes peeled for 2 more game packs. That'll be another $40. Sims 3 Supernatural introduced a range of new occults, but in The Sims 4 only 2 of those included were brought back, and even then they were split into 2 separate packs. Now I know that the contents of these packs are not identical, and there are things that The Sims 4 expanded on and arguably did better. For example, one argument is that as vampires had their own pack, they could be given more attention and therefore are even better than before. However, I would argue that as The Sims 4 is a newer game, you would expect them to be better anyway, and in terms of price, you're still losing out, because sure, vampires and spellcasters are better quality in The Sims 4, but you're paying the same price for those 2 occults that you did for The Sims 3 Supernatural, which also had its own world, plus vampires, witches, fairies, werewolves, and zombies. If EA were to release packs for fairies, werewolves, and zombies in the same way that they did for vampires and spellcasters, then the cost of having these occults in The Sims 4 would be $100. And yeah, they probably would be better quality than the ones in The Sims 3, but I don't think the majority of Sims players would be happy to spend that much when they previously paid $40 for all of the occults I've listed. The Sims 4 also had fan favourites return as expansion packs, including Seasons, which I mentioned earlier. However, they too were missing the amount of content offered in the same expansions for the previous game. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I do have a playlist where I compare the Sims 4 packs to the Sims 3. I'll leave a link to that playlist in the description and in the white box at the top of the screen now. But for the purpose of highlighting what I'll mean, I'll quickly talk about one of them. Let's do pets. So the Cats and Dogs expansion was The Sims 4's answer to the Pets expansion from The Sims 3, but once again it fell short when it came to expectation. Both packs introduced new worlds, and both added 1 new career. The main difference was the pets themselves. The Sims 3 had horses, cats and dogs, which were all controllable and had their own lifetime wishes, and they also had non-controllable pets like lizards, turtles, snakes and birds. The Sims 4 cats and dogs only had cats and dogs. This time around they were not controllable. Smaller pets similar to The Sims 3 were later introduced in a stuff pack that had to be purchased separately. So you'd be paying for 2 packs for The Sims 4 to still not have as much content as what was given in 1 pack for The Sims 3. When you consider that the content offered in packs for The Sims 4 doesn't even compete with The Sims 3, you can see why Simmers are upset. It's very reasonable as a consumer to expect later games to not only measure up to previous ones, but to be even better, because they're newer. I think I've spoken enough about the base game and expansion packs. The next area that I want to touch on as to why Simmers criticise The Sims 4 is to look at how the game actually performs. Many Simmers have encountered bugs, glitches and freezes during gameplay. This in itself isn't an issue isolated to The Sims 4 though. The Sims 3 also had issues with lag and bugs as well. But lag and bugs are things that have become very familiar to the simming community, especially after installing a new pack or after a patch update. It may be that the simulation lag is caused by a problem in the game's code, and if that's the case, then this could be something that may never be fully resolved. The game's code is so messy that even making a simple change is going to impact the game in another way that even the developers might not know about. Just as an example, there was a patch released whereby part of it was a bug fix. However, because the code was so intertwined, it meant that as a result of that fix, an error was caused which meant that some players suddenly had thousands of Father Winters entered into their game, causing significant lag to their gameplay. So the Sims team then had to work on a fix for that one. You could even argue that the more the Sims team try and fix the issues, the more chance they have of encountering new ones. In terms of the game's coding, this is not something that I am a subject matter expert on. This is a piece of common feedback that I've come across and just wanted to highlight in this video. The Sims team have done a few things to try and help the situation. As I mentioned earlier, they do release patch updates for the base game, and they share their laundry list with us so we know what they're working on. Whether we agree with their priorities is by the by, it's still nice to have the communication in an effort to be transparent. Of course, as a community, that does not mean that we should be grateful or thankful for what they're doing. As far as many are concerned, they are simply trying to right the wrongs, not add free and generous value to the game. However, while that may be the case, in reality, no, EA don't have to release patch updates or continue working on the base game. Sure, people will be upset and they would face backlash if they didn't, but ultimately they know people will buy The Sims 5 whether they work on The Sims 4 or not. As far as I'm concerned, everything they're doing for The Sims 4 base game is for the benefit of their reputation, which in my opinion is a smart move. That being said, they really don't appear to be helping themselves. In my opinion, obviously, based off some of the decisions that they've made. One of the things that stands out to me about The Sims 4 is that it just seems a bit messy, and that things aren't planned that far in advance, or perhaps the game has just been around for too long. But just to give you a few examples, for the 20-year anniversary they gave away a hot tub, despite the fact that many people spent money on a stuff pack prior to this to specifically buy a hot tub. The amount of content we get in packs has been improved recently. For example, the Courtyard Oasis kit has more build and buy objects than the luxury party stuff. Obviously, it's a good thing that we are getting more value for money, but the people who paid full price for the old stuff packs are probably a bit aggrieved. The calendar was added to base game, despite the fact that it was a key feature in the Seasons expansion pack which people paid for. These things are just kind of highlighting a bit of messiness when it comes to the game's planning. Not only have things come out free that were previously paid for, but some things have been duplicated, which may have been intentional, but I personally just think it comes down to bad planning. Photography is duplicated in Get to Work and Moschino stuff. The only difference is that it has been unnecessarily adapted. Foxes were duplicated once in Cats and Dogs and again in Cottage Living. They behave differently, but it seems strange to have two types of the same thing in one game. Even though the Sims team have worked on improving the base game and have released many updates, there are still business decisions they make that upset many in the Sims community. For example, many have asked for better babies, cars and grocery shopping, and instead they got a Star Wars game pack. Yeah, that was the final straw for a lot of Simmers. The reality is, the Sims team don't have to do anything. It's their game, and if they want to have a Star Wars pack, then that's their prerogative. But you can't have it both ways. You can't expect great sales figures in the future and happy customers when you don't listen to your community. Just like if you're a YouTuber, you can make whatever content you want, your channel, your choice, but don't expect people to watch you if you're not offering something for them to gain. In terms of the future, I think that if the Sims team take the lessons learned from the Sims 4's run and try to avoid some of the mistakes that were made, the future for the Sims may be bright, but that really is up to them. The Sims 5 has so much potential, and they have a choice to either make it a game that meets the expectations of their consumers, expectations that they are fully aware of and have been shared with them for a while now, or they can continue down the path of The Sims 4 and end up with a fairly good game but with much to be desired. If that is the case, I wouldn't be surprised if many Sims customers take their business to a competitor. There are a few in the pipeline now after all. In terms of The Sims 4, I don't think it will ever be the game that offers more than its predecessors, but that doesn't mean it's not a good game. And I just want to say again that I really like The Sims 4, and I don't think it's a bad game at all. In fact, it's because I care about the game that I wanted to make this video. We all make mistakes, and I'm not trying to just bash on the Sims team, but I do hope they take a step back and have an honest reflect on how some of the decisions they've made have left their community disappointed. The minute people stop criticising EA will probably be the day that The Sims dies, because people wouldn't criticise if they didn't truly care. I want the future of The Sims to be successful. I want to enjoy these games for years to come. So I hope this video doesn't come across as me moaning for the sake of moaning. Despite the name of my channel, I do try to be an optimistic person. Thank you so much for watching if you've got this far. I'm sorry if it was a bit here, there and everywhere. And please do let me know in the comments what you think about this. How do you feel about The Sims 4 in comparison to the other games? Am I being too harsh? What do you hope to see in the future of The Sims? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe, please. You know I love it when you do that. Okay, bye.